We transitioned because the life and gender we were given did not fit how we actually identify. But what do we do with what we were given? What do we do with our pre-transition self after we come out and embrace our true self? So do we keep it in the past? Pretend it never happened? Integrate it with who we currently are in some sort of gender reconciliation? I know when I was first transitioning, I just wanted to leave the old me and all that crap, all those old experiences behind me, leave it in the past. It was too painful to look back. I just wanted to move forward as Chloe. Thinking back to the first year of my transition, pretty much everything I did was related to figuring out myself, embracing femininity, figuring out what I wanted in transition, exploring anything and everything trans. I even remember my girlfriend commenting something along the lines, "Does everything you do have to be trans?" I don't remember the exact words, but the point stands. It was like my whole life was about being trans, at least at the beginning of my transition. Makes perfect sense to me, though. I was finally starting to let out this part of me that I repressed for years, a part of me that made me happy and just helped me feel right in the world for the very first time. The excitement and curiosity of being trans and finally being able to embrace that I'm a trans woman. It's kind of a big change. So of course it's going to be constantly on my mind and heart, especially in those early days. But pretty quickly, I did not want to be in boy mode at any point in the day that I absolutely did not have to. Unless it was work or school, I did not want to be seen as anyone other than Chloe, whether in person or in pictures. I mean, I only wanted to be seen as Chloe everywhere, but it obviously took some time to be able to come out in those different areas of my life. I remember even shying away from some things that I routinely did prior to transition, like playing video games. Can you imagine that? I'm kind of obsessed with video games. It felt too masculine, which is so stupid. But there are so many pieces of my old life that reminded me of the man I wasn't, and I wanted to distance myself from that, even if they really had nothing to do with my gender identity. It did take some time, though, to get to a point where I was comfortable with a sort of gender reconciliation, with integrating my past experiences and interests with my present self. I may have not been my full authentic self pre-transition, but I needed time to recognize that there were still many parts of my pre-transition self that were authentically me. I think it was my time in therapy and my time in a personal growth group that really helped me with integrating all of this, because I needed time and help to work through that discomfort and shame. If you've ever been in therapy, you may have done what is sometimes called inner child work. I first did this in a personal growth group, and I absolutely broke down in tears and just completely fell apart into a puddle. The idea here is, metaphorically in a sense, traveling back in time to provide comfort and support for your inner child, or your past self, who you were as a child. But I always saw my inner child as a boy when I first started engaging in these activities, because that's how the world saw and identified me as at that point in my life. I wanted to help that child, but it just felt so painful to see someone who didn't feel like who I was. I was lost, scared, and disconnected from the world at this point in time as a child, and in many ways still at the present when I was early in my transition. I wasn't able to be myself when I was younger, and at first it felt easier to just try to ignore all of that. You know, it's like this whole idea of thinking, or rather hoping, that all of my problems would just magically go away after coming out full time. It was hard to process, hard to imagine telling myself that everything would just be okay, when I knew that the world would tell me for years and continue to tell me that I was wrong for being me. To be able to reconcile all of this, what I really needed was time. Time to grow into my new life as Chloe. Time to find myself in the world as the woman I always wanted to be. The woman I always was, but had only recently begun to embrace. I needed time to find that love for myself from within. I was just starting to unravel the layers, and now I needed to love this person that I was unraveling. I needed to realize that despite what naysayers would say to me, I knew that I was so much happier. I needed time to realize that I was able to connect with others on deep levels that I only ever dreamed of being able to do. My past experiences paved the way for who I am today, and I can't separate myself from that, or at least I shouldn't. And just because the world saw me as a boy or a man for many years in my life, that does not for 1 second invalidate who I am today. It does not invalidate my identity as a woman or a trans woman. It's just all part of who I am and the path that got me to where I am. Sure, my journey to being me has not been ideal, as is the case for many, if not all, trans and non-binary people because of the struggles we go through in order to just live authentically and be accepted for doing so, both on a personal level and by others. In early transition, I would get intense dysphoria looking at older pictures. Now I just think of how I was just trying to fit in at that time and still needed time to figure things out at that point in my life, having compassion for my past self. I did the best I could with what I had at the time. It was quite a journey. It was a difficult journey, but over time I was able to build comfort, build confidence. I just needed that time to be able to put all the pieces together and feel whole. And I think I'll turn it over to all of you now. What are your reactions? Can you relate to what I've shared? Regardless of whether you are out or not, whether you've transitioned or not, what has the process been like for you reconciling these parts of your life? The gender you were given, what people told you you were, and who you actually are, how you actually identify. Let me know all of this and so much more down in the comments below. And as always, Tipsy and I love you all and hope you're staying as happy and safe and sound as you can. If you have not done so already, please be sure to give this a huge thumbs up and hit that subscribe button and notification bell. I love you all. Bye for now.